the most powerful components to life. We all heard it time and time again, when they look at you and say, "I got your back and I'm in your corner," that's only the space they occupy to watch you fail. So, remember that the next time you invite them back into your life. No matter how many times a snake may shed its skin, snake is still a snake no matter how many times you may request their company. The Bible tells us in Psalm 101 verse 7, "No one who practices deceit shall dwell in my house. No one who utters lies shall continue before my eyes." 12. One of the most powerful components of life is choosing the right circle of friends. Ask yourself, how can I advance into the light when I'm still surrounded by darkness? Whatever they portray or what their beliefs are, it will eventually rub off on you. Turning your life into an equal arm scale that has two opposing sides and will never balance out equally. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 22 verses 24 to 25, "Make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor go with a wrathful man, lest you learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare." 13. Becoming unattached doesn't mean you are being put in a perpetual state. It also doesn't mean that you are not inadequate, but the moment you decide to embrace your imperfections, your life will be mollified completely. Always remember, just like a pearl, you are that hidden truth of beauty. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." 14. One of the most important things to know about life is to understand physical abuse. The first constituent is name-calling. The second component is the ridicule of verbal abuse. The third is actual physical abuse. Understand that it's not if it's going to happen, but when it's going to happen. The most positive step to take is to run for the hills. All it takes is having the courage to move forward. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 6 verse 4, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." 15. In today's society, we tend to come across people that is not considered common, but purely basic. In other words, no filter and no class. They tend to blurt out their thoughts and words, no matter if it's derogatory or politically incorrect, reminding me of the residues that eventually settle at the bottom of the ocean. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18 verse 2, "A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion." 16. Learn to be your advocate. You are at the advantage in any situation. When you start understanding that you have the upper hand, you have entered the realm of helpfulness. The disadvantage is when you give that authority away, which in the end will only leave you powerless, to render you with feelings of inadequacy and inconclusiveness. The Bible tells us in Hebrew 1:1, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." 17. Learn to value your time and vitality, know when to say no and walk away. Never allow anyone in your personal space to drain your energy. Always remember, a toxic persuasion is the worst manipulation in its rawest form. So, a word to the wise, rationalize the lies. The Bible tells us in Matthew 7:1-5, "Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." 18. Trials and errors are only the cost of living. In other words, every mistake should be a learning experience, which is only the stepping stone to your preeminence. Going forward, learn to say no to that pessimistic thought pattern. So, once you start removing all of your doubts and fears, your soul will be enlightened with reassurance. The Bible tells us in Philippians 4 verse 13, "I can do all things through Christ, who strengthens me." 19. Sometimes, we tend to make ourselves so willingly available to others. Always remember, you only have two hands. Learn to leave one of those hands in your pocket, because, when you start becoming someone else's dominant hand, that relationship starts to become more complicated, knowing that they will always need that hand, which are you. More times than it's the other hand in your pocket that's hanging on to the money. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 10 verse 9, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely. But he who makes his ways crooked will be found out." 20. Why should we be disheartened by negative criticism, or why should we have to walk on pins and needles? Rise, and find the merit within your strength. It's time for us to be the composer of our destiny. Remembering that we are the frontiersmen of our wheat field, in other words, learn to value your worth, understanding that you are not any five-finger discount. The Bible tells us in Romans 12 verse 2, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." 21. Sometimes it seems like everything around us begins to tumble down an endless stairway. It's not your responsibility to try to figure everything out, even though it may have rained on your parade. That doesn't mean the world is coming to an end. You were made to move forward and not backward. Just hand it over to Jesus. Hand it over to Jesus. Hand it over to Jesus, and everything's going to be all right. The Bible tells us in Psalm 73 verse 26, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." 22. To achieve your full potential, it's vital to understand who you are. Self-awareness is self-worth, self-worth is self-esteem, and self-esteem is self-care. I'm starting to realize that there is a blueprint to live. When it comes to fulfilling your dreams and endeavors, it's all about embracing your faith and walking in wisdom. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 3 verse 20, "Now to him who can do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us." 23. When you learn how to embrace that jubilation within yourself, that's one of the most powerful feelings in this world. Walk your path with truth and honor. The things I've learned about life are that difficulties becoming dreams, and do dreams become reality? So, when it comes to positive thinking, learn to create realistic plans for your life. The Bible tells us in Philippians 4 verse 8, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." 24. We put so much emphasis on looking for someone to love us. How can this be, when we always choose the ones that don't even love themselves? Have you taken a moment to look in the confines of the mirror? Within that reflection, there's a person of honesty, beauty, encouragement, and non-judgmental, knowing that there's no objection to cause, rejection, or flaws. Going forward, let your adversaries know you cannot be converted. We'll just call it non-redeemable. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 19 verse 8, "Whoever gets sense loves his soul. He who keeps understanding will discover good." 25. It's time to wake up to what's fact and not fiction. In other words, it's time to detach and disconnect. You can't be friends with everybody. It's time to remove people from your sandbox. But once you include the right people, your social skills will improve. You will be in a better position to share your feelings, laughter, empathy, and respect. Always remember, your playtime is special. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." 26. Some people like secondhand smoke. They can be cancerous to any relationship. Always remember, you need oxygen to breathe. A toxic situation is a fundamentally broken situation that will lead to worst possible contingencies, only causing you shortness of breath, headaches, confusion, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, prompting you to remember that if you don't have air, you're unaware. The Bible tells us in Luke 6 verse 28, "Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. 27. Why are you sweating, and you're not even running? Is it that your life's consumed with fear? Once you start understanding the ways of a bird, you will be as absurd as a coot, unswerving as a crow, and fly as clever as an owl. Always remember, your courage and strength are something to be admired. Whenever you feel obstacles are impeding your confidence, learn to use it to your advantage. Grab your torch and run like hell. The Bible tells us in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind." 28. The moment you start forgiving yourself, that's the gravity of self-love. You will start avoiding negative people by having the discernment to embrace people of a different caliber. The emotional vacantness that you held so close to your heart will at some point lose consciousness, sending you into a feeling of complacency. An individualistic feeling can be warranted. The Bible tells us in Psalm 139 verse 14, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well."